Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Valiant Thursday stream. Matthew, hello. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good. And Dan, nice to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm terrific. Thanks, Megan. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you. Before we dive into our topic, I'm going to do the kind of upfront stuff. Thank you, regular viewers, for being here. We appreciate you so much. You keep us coming back every week. And anyone watching for the first time, thank you so much for being here. We are Valiant Technology. We are a managed IT service provider based in New York City, but we have a national reach. And if you want to learn more about us, Matt's putting up some great banners, but you can find out about us at thevaliantway.com. You can watch our past streams on our YouTube channel, and you can join the conversation. We love it when our viewers join the conversation by commenting on YouTube and LinkedIn. Ask us questions, we'll answer them. Sometimes, if the topic's good, we'll create a whole stream about it. So if you have any questions, please ask them. And you can also watch our live streams via Twitter. So follow us at thevaliantway.com. Or sorry, just The Valiant Way. We don't need a .com on Twitter.
Well, first, let's start off by thanking Dan for coming on with us today. Our fearless leader, George, is at a marketing industry event down in Florida. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to get some more expertise on the stream. And Dan's actually the CEO of an MSP much like Valiant that's located on Long Island, Tech Runner IT. Mm-hmm. And he's also a member of the marketing community I'm a part of. So it's really great to have him on. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
and it's very exciting.
Just because we like to give George a little screen time every now and then. There they go. There they are.
Just two IT guys taking on the big city. That's what that says to me.
That's life, and you do what you can.
So, we're Megan, please, you go
ahead. No, sure. So, guys, I think we're talking about a very interesting topic, and I had too many stories to tell Matt about this when he brought it up, but social engineering, that's what we're talking about today. And I think a good place to start for any topic is to define what that topic is, to kind of see the scope of what we're talking about. So, we all work in IT. Machines make machines make decisions based on data and instructions, right? Very logical, rational. Humans, which this makes us wonderful, but it also makes us vulnerable. We use both logic and emotion and in situations to make decisions. And that use of emotion usually makes us the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity. In your relationship, great. In your cybersecurity, maybe be more careful with your emotions. So that vulnerability can be used to gain information, to secure specific outcomes by bad actors who are going to use your emotions and manipulate your emotions to gain something from you that you don't probably want to give. And that's what social engineering is, the act of exploiting human weakness. And so we're going to talk about social engineering in the scope of cybersecurity because we all work in IT. But Matt, do you mind diving into the origins of how, just the history of it and how common it is in everyday life?
Yeah, of course. This is a topic that I love. It's a topic from my youth, maybe when I was a little bit more of a troublemaker, before I moved over to the light side or whatever it is that they would say in Star Wars. But yeah, social engineering is something we talk about a lot with respect to cybersecurity, not just within the scope of our jobs, but I think within everyday life. Everyone thinks social engineering and immediately connects it to things that are going on with technology, but it predates that so much. I mean, in the 1840s, there was this guy named William Thompson, and he was like the original confidence man. Now, of course, confidence man can get short down to con man, and con man can be shortened down to bad actor. But, the newspapers coined him as this because he had this knack for connecting with people and gaining their trust and then exploiting it. So there's this line that he's best known for. It's like, have you the confidence to trust in me today, trust in me, your watch, or whatever it is. I don't care. It's like the guy from Popeye, can I get a burger on Monday if I pay you on Tuesday, but he doesn't show up. The point is that he would get people to trust him with their belongings, whether it's their wallet or their watch or something else that was valuable, with the idea that they'd receive it back the next day, and it just simply
And
never
people
happened.
want to trust. That's the taking advantage of sort of the better part of a human character, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
exploiting that, which is
And
what
it's
makes it scary.
something that we actually do every day, all of us, and we'll get into that a little bit before we jump into the tech itself. But
Mhm.
there was this Dutch industrialist J.C. Van Marken back in 1894. Okay, think about these dates. We're not talking 2020, 2021. We're talking 1894. Coined the term, suggesting that there were specialists that were really needed to attempt to challenges that were shared between humans and technology at the time. I guess they were social engineering steam trains. I don't know what it was back then, but the contemporary term or contemporary usage of the term really does connect directly to cybersecurity these days. That's what we really do connect it to. But before we jump into that, let's talk a little bit about social engineering and how it takes place in our daily lives. Because whether we're aware of it or not, we're all subject to it, and a lot of us are actually doing exercising different types of social engineering tactics on a daily basis without even really realizing what it is. And I think that's because social engineering on its own is very innocuous. It's not dangerous. It's when you take social engineering techniques and apply malicious intent to them, that's when things start to get messy on you.
Yeah.
Think about with kids. Kids know that their parents want them to be happy. And as kids, I'm sure we've all done things to make sure that we get what we want.
Yeah.
You
Throw
know,
a tantrum at the wrong place. So
So throwing temper tantrums is probably number one on the list. And I'd say number two is, and I mean, I've done this as a kid. You go up to mom or dad and you've got your friend next to you and it's like, hey, mom, we're going to Chuck E. Cheese next Tuesday. Can Anthony come along? Anthony's standing right next to me. She's not going to say no. She doesn't want to
right.
be the person that says no. I just engineered a situation to get the outcome that I want just by saying the right words and doing them in the right way.
How about mom says no, go ask dad?
Boom. That's you're just going over someone else's head. And, that's exactly what it is. So when you think about it, social engineering, bad people, and all these things. But yeah, now we're talking about a 5 or 6-year-old that just wants to
Well,
go to Chuck E. Cheese and get some tokens.
and Matt, this isn't on the list we have, but Dan and I were talking about our cats before, the live stream, and those cats have me social engineered just to do all of their. Dan, I don't know about you, but my cat will just wake me up in the morning, just meow me up in the morning so she gets fed. And it's just like it's very interesting. You can even pets, even smart animals can know how to.
They're exploiting your sympathy towards them. They know that if they act a certain way, they're going to get what they want. And, we could flip things and say the same thing happens with parents.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not a parent, but I talked to a couple of friends who are, and they looked at me kind of like angrily shaking their head. Yes, this happens. Parents will use their child's desire for approval or to be proud of them as a motivator to get kids to do certain things. And I'm sure everyone's like, I'd be so proud of you if you could mow the whole lawn. That would be so cool. I remember getting that talk as a kid and then doing it, be like, what? Front and backyard, done. And my dad's like,
I still operate that way. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
and it works in the opposite direction from that too, using shame or guilt. I can't believe my kid did this. And you're like, you're kind of hamming it up in front of them because you don't want them to ever do it again. You're putting that fear into them. And you're using a tactic that's going to get them to remember how bad whatever it was that happened was and to avoid that again. And, we're just talking about family connections here because I think that's the easiest example to give because it's something I'm sure we've all done at one time or another. I was definitely the kid that threw the tantrum in the frozen food aisle of the shopping market because I wanted ice cream sandwiches. I still do that.
I have so we're all we all work in MSP, and which is a very service heavy industry as well. And what about when it comes to customer service? Dan, do you have any thoughts on that from your end? Like the very gentle social engineering that goes into that?
Sure. Obviously the core tenets of customer service are, listen, be calm, be kind, right? Like you want to diffuse any potential situation if there is one. And not that people always call and scream, but one of the things that we are super proud of and we've got a ton of great feedback on over the years is our hold music. We go straight to actually people don't know what it is necessarily, so I don't like to give it away, but it's a Hawaiian version of a very popular song from a bit back in time. And everybody it gets their attention. Everybody knows it, but they can't tell what it is. So it always leads to comments and conversations. And what was that? And this So no matter what they
Wow.
what they were, if they were upset about something or something was broken, if there's a real problem, it immediately brings the level of panic and energy down.
It redirects them into trying to figure out what this is. It's, you're diverting their CPU cycles into another process.
Well, I like that. Yeah, like Matt, you put that so well. But I do like that all of a sudden it goes from them being frustrated to being like a nice moment in their day where they heard an interesting song because of your
Mhm.
hold music, which is usually a bit being on hold is usually upsetting, but why does it have to be? We don't have to play stale hold music.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
And
Exactly.
I'm the first person to recognize when you call, like, if you're calling a Verizon or a corporation, and then they put on this intentionally flowery piano music because somebody 100 miles away from the actual decision said, let's put calm music on to calm people down so we can deal with them.
Right.
You can see through that 100 miles away, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I used to work in retail, and I was when Matt and I were discussing this stream the other day. I was talking about how people, people returning things, product malfunction, anything like that, really legitimate issues. They come in a little hot. Sometimes they're either looking for a fight or they just want to be like you said, listened to. And for me, the gentle social engineering, like when I was at work in the store, would be like, I stay calm no matter what. Usually the person will match me, and then the interaction becomes much nicer. But that's also, I think, what they mean by the customer's always right. It's not literal, but if you sort of operate that way, the person feels so much safer and
Yeah.
maybe more reasonable for what you can do for them in the moment. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And the thing about that is that some of these tactics are used to help people.
Yeah.
And I think that medical professionals are a really good example of that. Your doctor uses what's the elicitation to pull information
Yeah.
from you, and very keen observance tactics to understand what you're talking about, because it's not always easy to explain what's going on in your body. And I don't mean just from the standpoint of maybe being embarrassed to talk about something being wrong, but simply not knowing how to express what's going on in a way that the doctor can help you or take action on. And a large part of their role is to sit down and really listen and talk things through. And it's not just where does it hurt. It usually says how you doing, what's been going on. It's a conversation that gets guided into the right areas. And that's something that they're taking the time to do. There's strategy behind that. It's not just kind of like they're really good conversationalists. I'm sure that they are in many cases because of how often they have to do this. But that's not where it's coming from. It's coming from, I'm a friendly person. I know you. We've established a relationship. And this is how I'm going to get the information I need to make you better.
Yeah.
And how much different is that from our help desk request forms? When you have guided questionnaires of people asking questions, it's the best way to get the best information that you can to be helpful to the person in the situation.
Absolutely. And when you can do that and you can make effective change, people appreciate it. And in the medical sense, it helps people do better. And within the sense of an MSP, I mean, honestly, that type of customer service is what helps us gain new customers.
Yeah.
It's not only something that's really a must for the sake of a business growing, but the right thing to do, in my opinion. I actually was going to tell a quick story about an instance with a street performer that I had who tried to socially engineer me many years ago, but I think I'm going to save that for another episode because I want to expand on it because it was such a funny story. It's literal smoke and mirrors, like little strings that would turn into smoke and all this crazy stuff that's going on in the middle of Times Square. Let's skip past that and really kind of jump into the main event, social engineering with respect to cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, social engineering is the usage of techniques to deceive people into giving information that could be used for someone else's benefit. And, there's like 6 or 7 main ways that this can happen. There are more, but I think it's categorized for us to be able to start to really identify these as they're taking place. So the first is baiting. That's when an attacker lures a potential victim in with something for free. Most of the time, it's something like it's usually a free download or something that you think is going to be beneficial to you, but turns out to be a complete mess. I saw this screenshot and clearly it's not real, but it really did make me laugh this morning. Like your free Windows upgrade for your Commodore 64 is here. Trust us. Trust me, I'm a professional. And then the next that we're going to talk about is phishing. I don't think we need to spend a ton.
We talk about that a lot. Yeah.
I think phishing is just kind of a word that everyone at this point has learned. I wouldn't be surprised if there are kids being born these days where it's like their first words. It's not mama or dada, but phishing or something, or click here, but the beauty is that there are a lot of systems these days from many different companies that really intelligently filter out a lot of these threats. I would have to say, and Dan, you agree, disagree, I'd love to hear your opinion, but the mail filtering capabilities that come with a lot of cloud-based systems these days, standalone, are not really adequate. You really do need to have another layer of protection on top from a company that specializes in that particular type of protection.
Yeah, 100%. Much like, every avenue of our industry now, like there is an additional security layer that needs to be applied no matter what it is.
Yeah.
There's an industry built around those specific, those specific services that layer on top of everything else. It's just modern times.
And just quick bit of imagery for people's heads. I think that thinking about cybersecurity is thinking about the younger brother from A Christmas Story, and the scene where he's got the jacket and the sweater and all this other clothing on him, and he has to go pee, but his arms are stuck in the air. I mean, those are layers of clothing to keep him warm, but think about those as being layers of security protecting your business. You can't just have one layer. You're not going to go out in the middle of winter with a t-shirt on and that's it. It's not a good idea.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
That was a really weird on-the-fly comparison there.
It's mostly good in comparison. I think a lot of people would relate to the way they feel with too many measures when the kid falls down. But also that's why you learn how to, you add these measures and you learn how to operate within those security measures. God, I love that scene.
Great recovery.
Confession, never seen the movie. So if you want to keep this within like a Star Wars or a little bit more contemporary, maybe like a Home Alone sense, a reference, I can probably connect next time.
I admitted to Ray Orsini at OIT that I've never watched The Princess Bride, and he didn't talk to me for like a day.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It changed my heart rate.
See?
There's also so many good examples. There's so many good metaphors for cybersecurity in The Princess Bride, like even like the poison taking and like all that.
Well,
Matt, you're missing out.
It sounds like it just became an assignment. So let's get through the stream, and then I'll go put it on my calendar.
Next week, you have to do a cybersecurity mapping of The Princess Bride. That's
pretexting. It's a technique that's used quite a bit online and offline, and it's the type of situation where impersonation is involved. So this is the type of technique that's used in an attack that's targeted against someone that is very particular. The person's been researched. You understand their habits. You know who their contacts are within their respective industry. You know the people are that they trust and aren't going to question something from. Thankfully, most people realize that when even your most trusted confidant comes to you and says, "Hey, I need $5,000 in Apple gift cards," something's up. The spidey senses should really start
anyone who's asking you for money, give them a call. Give them the call, the number you have.
And that actually that goes back to something that Dan put out the other day. Dan's been putting posts on social media, tips for cybersecurity awareness, and the callback is critical. When you receive something like that, you don't just respond. You call the person, say, "Hey man, did you just shoot me an email asking for something?" And you get the yes and you get the no right away, and you know exactly what's going on. You take the extra step and you be cyber safe. And that's such an important part of everything that we're talking about this month. There goes Pete. The next on our list is quid pro quo. And I love this because it makes me think of Silence of the Lambs, and I get all weird and start talking about Chianti and fava beans, and then realize that this is something that we all deal with. In fact, there's a commercial on TV about privacy and security that has a great example of this, where there's like a husband and wife. I think they're like in a hotel room, probably on vacation. And I think the husband's like, "Oh, if we give our email address away, we get free French fries at this restaurant." And I think the wife's like, "Already did it." That's quid pro quo right there, and it can be used for malicious purposes. It can be used for marketing purposes. The French fry example is a great one. Is Applebee's going to try to breach your email account because you signed up for free French fries? No, of course not. Applebee's is lovely. What they are going to do is put you on a marketing list, and then you're going to find out about every special they have until the end of time. And is that the end of the world? Not really. Is it something that you're going to want? Maybe not. And I think it's good to understand that that's a social engineering technique, and it's just something that's all over the place all times. There's also reverse social engineering, which is kind of cool. It's not good. It's just interesting. It's when you position yourself by convincing someone that there's a problem, and that you happen to be the solution. And I think one of the most common forms of this that we'll see are the scam like websites that sometimes people get forwarded to, where it's like your Windows 10 installation has been hacked. Please call us now. Love Microsoft. And you call and they explain the problems, and you give them the credit card number, and for $99 they'll remotely control your computer and fix the problem. The problem's automatically fixed, but now you have someone with remote control on your computer, and that's when the real problems are going to begin.
And your credit card information.
Yes. they've got the keys to your castle, and they're going to have a house party as soon as you're not paying attention. Tailgating. Sorry, go ahead, please. No.
Oh, well, I don't know if this fits in exactly where we were, but Matt, we've talked about this a lot, but just the questionnaires in a personal level, your questionnaires on Facebook, the giving of security question answers. Those are all over the place. I saw one person respond to today's Wednesday and we're all naming our elementary school. And I was like, this one's not, come on. But I saw someone who is sort of a loose acquaintance answer it. And just another PSA, don't. It is phishing, and they are trying to gather your information. And then Matt, like you were saying, even some of those questionnaires, it's just for marketing purposes, and it's just.
In a lot of cases, and this didn't really hit me until last week when I was thinking about it. But, sometimes you'll see these posts on Facebook that are like, name a fish that doesn't have the letter A in it. And I was unable to do that. Yeah, there you go. Boom. Winner. And okay, so is there a high likelihood that the word trout is going to have anything to do with your, say, password questions or something? No, but you've engaged with a piece of content on Facebook, and now that person can target you in advertisements. Show this advertisement to all people that have engaged with my content in the past X days. That's an option. And that means they could start advertising all sorts of junk to you, and that junk can lead you to false websites, other fraudulent activity in a way that you would never even consider, because it's an ad on Facebook. This is a really cool blender. I want to get one. I want to see what kind of smoothies I can make. Yeah, well, the person who's going to have your credit card in like a half hour is going to want to figure out if they can get a jet ski or not. So that's it's an interesting real world example of how something that's right in front of you could be a threat without even realizing it. All right, we've got two more on this list. We've got tailgating, and this is one that I'll admit I have been guilty of in the past. And when I say guilty, I mean have done it, not committed of something. And tailgating is a physical technique to gain access to a location, and you see it in movies all the time. You'll see the person waiting outside at a
very Ocean 11s, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be great if it was just like people contorting themselves and going into duffel bags, and that was the entire description of tailgating. But a lot of times people can pretend very easily to be an employee, a delivery person, maybe someone that works inside of a building, and gain access with minimal trouble. Back when I worked at 1500 Broadway, I couldn't stand the front doors. The building had a Starbucks inside of it, and these revolving doors, and they were always busy. So I just started going in the back door. And I did it with a level of confidence that no one asked a question probably for about 6 months. And after they finally did, and they're like, wait, no, you work on the 7th floor. I'm like, yeah, I don't work for the building. They were just like, all right, keep doing it. Don't tell anyone else to do it. Keep your head down. You got us. There's no point in stopping. Yeah. But that was essentially tailgating and going into confidence really quick. That's a really key part of anything like this, confidence. There's an episode. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You go. Well, I was just gonna ask Dan really quick, because you put out that content on call before someone gives you, before you send money.
Yep.
With this tailgating issue, I mean, I know that's not technically IT, but what would be the best way to make sure, for companies and buildings to make sure that doesn't happen?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with a call. We send technicians out to on site all the time. And if it's a larger property, big commercial real estate property, we have to be allowed into the building, right? So we can say, hey, we're with Tech Runner IT. You're not on the list. Okay. You call building management. It's they normally have a sheet of like, all right, Tech Runner's going to be there at 10 o'clock, whatever. But it's really no different than that. We get requests from vendors. We'll get a call from a DVR company or a access company. Hey, such and such client we share. We have this thing to do. Can you help us? Like, yeah, absolutely. Let's get on a call with the CFO or point of contact. Let's validate that we're all in this together. You are, you say you are, and then we'll move forward. But we're certainly not going to take a call like that and start giving information or making changes. How many times people get a call, really, the DVR vendor, hey, I need you to open firewall ports for this or that. How about no? you know, and we're
Well,
not
and
going to
then
do that.
you can always tell if they get mad. IT guys aren't going to get mad, just needing to do their basic stuff. That's always a good indicator.
Like I was saying, confidence plays a large role. There's an episode of The Big Bang Theory where the Wallowitz character is in the main guy's living room at the coffee table where they have meals, and he's got a robotic arm. And it's like, the robotic assembly line, kind of like super futuristic kind of a thing. And they're using it to take Chinese food containers out of a brown paper bag. It's pretty funny. And at one point, the Penny character is like, doesn't NASA realize this is with you? And Wallowitz is like, no, of course not. The trick is to carry it out to your car like you own it. They never ask a thing. And it's a sitcom, and it's a punchline and a joke, but it's actually a very serious comment. If you have that level of confidence and you do something like this, it's pretty easy to do. And
don't be afraid to vet people. But if someone's not a bad actor, it'll be fine.
Exactly. I guess what I'm getting at with the example from The Big Bang Theory, I mean, it's a sitcom that's, everyone's seen, it's in syndication, the whole deal, is that they made social engineering into a punchline. And that's how common it is. Yeah. It's again, to get away from the scope of cybersecurity, it's in all of our lives everywhere, to the point where it's something that we're sitting in primetime TV, like, in the living room at night laughing about. And I think that seeing examples like that make it so much clearer to people as to what's going on a daily basis in their lives, and even what they're doing without realizing it. And it's sort of like whatever the phenomenon is when you buy a car and all of a sudden you see all the other cars on the road that are the same as yours. I always bring that up and I can never remember the name of it. But once you start understanding these different techniques that are used and how they're used, you start realizing how often they're taking place in front of you. And with respect to cybersecurity, that can go a long way in helping you identify and put threats to an absolute end before they can happen. The final item on our list is really just a really different variant, another variant of phishing. It's called whaling or spear phishing, and I prefer the term whaling because
like Moby Dick, like it's based on
you're going for the big fish. You're going for the executives. It takes things a step further than phishing because there's some targeting involved. You need a little bit of intelligence on the person that things like who their assistant is, because maybe that's the attack vector that you use to get to them. But it happens. It happens a lot. It's something that I know that we have prevented a number of times over the years. It's something I've seen happen with other businesses. And tell you, if you get into the head or the email or accounts, if anything, of a CEO or someone at that level of the company, a lot of damage can be done. So it's really important to be aware of these techniques and how they're used. And even though we've really just kind of gone into what they are today, next week we're going to be covering security best practices for small businesses. And that's when we're going to get into the prevention. And that's going to include a whole bunch of new and updated downloads for 2021 that I'm going to get started on today for everybody. So I guess that's really it for the day. And I wanted to make sure we kept under a half hour because I know Dan's got lots to do. He's got his own company to run. He's got to go places, and we got a lot to do as well. So does anyone have any closing remarks or anything?
No, I have an email from a fellow CEO. He's actually trying to, he says he's got a large payment for me here. So if I just update my bank information, we'll get that. I got to jump. Really great, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Dan, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. You've been great, and
it's fun to have different faces here with us a little bit of discussion.
And, George, you helped ease us missing George. It really helped.
So I guess let's call it a day on this. Next week, like I said, we're going to be talking about security best practices for small businesses, and I'm really looking forward to that. I think that the idea of Cybersecurity Month being October is great to help raise awareness, but it's something that we should be doing all year round. But definitely leading the charge this year, so we're having some fun with it. And again, I commend Dan for all the work that he's doing in the same way for his customers and other people. And if there's nothing else, I think it's time to say see you guys next week.
See you next week. Please like and subscribe, everyone, to our channel, and come back next week. All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Matt.
Bye-bye.
Thank you both.